I got my mistress pregnant. Please, let's get a divorce. In front of me, Sam was begging. I could only look down at him, stunned. So, you really don't want a divorce, Kelly? I was just shocked by the sudden news. Though I said that, inside, I couldn't stop smirking. You rely on me so much, you don't want a divorce, right? But for her sake, for Ada's sake, please let's divorce. Oh, so the mistress is named Ada. That thought felt so detached. It made me realize how little I cared for Sam. Despite my shock at my own coldness, I responded with a smile. Sure, here's the divorce papers. What? Divorce papers? Sam looked shocked as I handed him the papers with a smile. Did he really think I was clueless about his affair? If so, he's terribly mistaken. I was just biding my time, collecting evidence. Like a quiet wife, gathering proof left by her husband. Anyway, I'm glad he confessed to his affair. It's a relief. I have another piece to corner him. Now, I can slowly tighten the noose. With a smile, I turned my back on Sam. My name is Kelly. I'm a 55-year-old part-timer at a food processing plant. My husband, Sam, is 56, working at a local consulting firm. Our daughter, Clarice, who just graduated from college, has got a job at a local bank. It may sound like we're a happy family celebrating our child's new beginning. But it's far from the truth. Because to me, Sam is just a housemate. Clarice doesn't see Sam as her father, and I don't see him as my husband. The reason is simple. Sam's affair. Yet, he seems unaware that we know. Maybe because Clarice and I never confronted him. But there was no point in doing so. We needed money while Clarice was in college. And I didn't want to worry her. So, I decided not to divorce until she graduated. But, having the option to divorce anytime makes it hard to bring up. I murmured, staring at the worn divorce papers in my bag. Maybe deep down, I didn't want a divorce. I've thought about it many times. We married for love. It's not easy to just call it quits, right? It wasn't a grand romance, but we had our little love story. We met when I was 24. It was just after I moved back from New York to my small rural hometown. I was tired of the city life and relationships, so I returned to my roots. My hometown was a quiet place. Not much of a tourist spot, mostly farmlands and orchards, nothing fancy. I had left it for college in the city and even worked there for a while. But it just didn't suit me. I'm quitting my job and coming back home. I remember telling my mom over the phone. Eventually, I found work in the caregiving industry back home. It was tough, but I felt fulfilled. That's when I met Sam, introduced by a coworker. I agreed to meet him somewhat reluctantly. Consulting work is tough but rewarding. Really? Yeah. Lots of travel, really hectic. That's why I wish someone would wait for me at home. Hearing him say that, I found myself wanting to be the one waiting for him. We started dating and eventually got married. But things changed dramatically after marriage. Kelly, quit your job. Why? I'm the one earning the money, right? You should help with the housework and take care of my dad. That's your job. His tone left no room for argument. I obediently followed his orders. Little did I know, his father needed care. I learned it after we got married. We weren't living with his parents, so I had to travel hours to their place. I'm sorry, dear. I thought Sam had told you. No worries. I used to work in caregiving, so it's okay. I reassured her. Of course, I was anxious at first. But they were my in-laws, after all. If I could help his mom support his dad, I wanted to. You want your family to be happy, right? I'd tell myself this as I helped her out. Meanwhile, back at home, I had endless housework. Life was a whirlwind. But one thing nagged at me. Why did Sam never choose to live with his parents? In such a situation, he'd expect to discuss living together or at least talk about caregiving before getting married. Yet, Sam never mentioned his father's condition until we were married. I realized much later why Sam did nothing. Putting that aside, for years, I kept visiting his parents' house without a break. Then one day, I noticed signs that I might be pregnant. I think I might be pregnant. Go to the doctor right away. Don't worry about things here, I've got it covered. The doctor confirmed my pregnancy. I immediately called my mother-in-law. She was overjoyed. Congratulations. Just make sure you don't overdo it, okay? Yes. But Sam told me to keep visiting you. I'll talk to Sam. Don't worry and don't overdo anything, okay? I was almost in tears from her reassuring words. Later, I waited for Sam to come home. When he arrived, I told him about the pregnancy, just as his mom called. Yeah, got it. He seemed annoyed. Probably getting a scolding from her. After a while, he hung up. Mom gave me an earful. For now, just focus on the baby. Is that okay? What do you mean okay? We have no choice. Sam was clearly upset. From that day, my life changed significantly. No more trips to his parents, I could focus just on our home. Still, I worried about his dad. So, I'd call occasionally to check in. We're fine here. Just focus on having a healthy baby. My mother-in-law's encouragement helped me deliver a healthy daughter. Her scolding Sam was a big help. I was so grateful to her. But first-time parenting was more challenging than expected. Everything was new. What should I do in this situation? I found myself asking her more and more. She always patiently advised me. Of course, I knew she was busy caring for my father-in-law. I didn't want to be a burden, but being a daughter-in-law, I couldn't easily call my own parents for advice. In fact, I once reached out to my own mother for advice. That time, Sam happened to come home and he said to me, "You're married into this family, how long will you keep depending on your own family?" But this is... Don't contact your family. It's embarrassing for me. Essentially, being his wife meant I should just follow what he says. That's all. Nowadays, many people would resist such an attitude. But this was normal for him. The husband, being the head of the household, was to be respected, and it was the wife's role to support him. Sam's arrogant behavior extended to our growing daughter, Clarice, as well. There's a sports day at school this Sunday. Right. Do your best. Will you come? Sam didn't even turn to look at her. He replied, without looking away from the TV. Ask your mom. I have work. But other friends' dads are coming. Other families are different. I have work. It can't be helped. Sam retorted with a snort. I couldn't hold back anymore. Working on Sunday? What's so urgent? What? Everyone works on weekdays. True, most consulting meetings happen outside weekends. Sam insisted that many companies operate that way. Indeed, he might be right about that. But he wasn't the only employee. Someone else could cover for him just this once. There might be a way if he thought about it. But it seemed like he never considered it. Maybe Clarice didn't matter to him. The thought made me furious. I raised my voice. Take the day off for Clarice's sake on Sunday. What? If I do that, my earnings will decrease. Is that okay with you? If it reduces income, I'll work part-time. Is that okay then? Eventually, Sam reluctantly agreed. But this decision led to a major problem later. I started a part-time job as a result, which led to a life of being constantly busy with work. I worked endlessly, with no time to rest, while repeating such arguments with Sam. This month's salary, that's all? Yeah. You're the one who said to cut back on work. But that's because... Enough. You make up the difference with your part-time job. You said it, so no complaints, right? I couldn't argue back. It was my suggestion, after all. So, I worked dutifully. 5 days a week at my part-time job, then home to endless chores. And I had to look after Clarice. Between parenting, housework, and work, I was overwhelmed. Then, another blow hit. What? It was a call from my mother-in-law, informing me of my father-in-law's passing. I felt like crying right there. But next to me, Sam said something unbelievable. Dad's inheritance, huh? Now we can have some fun. I couldn't believe my ears. I turned to Sam, and he was grinning. It wasn't a misunderstanding. I was as saddened by his reaction as I was by the loss itself. Eventually, after the funeral, Sam received his father's inheritance. Apparently, his father had made a lot of money in his youth, and the inheritance was substantial. As a result, Sam began to indulge in leisure. He claimed to have more business trips and hardly ever came home. These business trips are lies. He must be having an affair. I wondered what to do. During this time, my mother-in-law came over. After hearing my story, she said that, "Actually, I've started a company. Working part-time with me might ease your burden a bit." Her story was as follows. After my father-in-law passed away, she felt lost. She had to live on her own. That's when she decided to work. But she didn't want just any job. So, she started a food processing company. They used local fruits to make jams and jellies. Surprisingly, there was a demand for it, with sales even in supermarkets and local markets. The workplace is close, and the hours are flexible. Encouraged by her words, I immediately started working at my mother-in-law's company. The salary was better than my previous job, and the hours were more flexible. Moreover, since all the employees were friends of my mother-in-law, I didn't feel any stress. Things have gotten easier, maybe it's time to investigate Sam's affair, I thought. But doing it myself seemed too difficult. So I hired a private investigator. The evidence came together quickly. Apparently, Sam was utterly careless. Pretending to be on business trips while actually on romantic getaways, meeting his mistress after work. It was clear. I could divorce him right away. But I hesitated. Clarice was still in high school. College would be expensive, and a divorce might affect her studies. So, I decided to wait until Clarice graduated from college before divorcing. I'll divorce after Clarice gets a job, I resolved, keeping a divorce application in my purse to remind myself. Years passed. Both happy and sad events occurred. Clarice graduated from college and found a job, but my mother-in-law fell ill. Should we put Mom in a facility? What? She's your mother. Mother or not, it doesn't matter. I just don't want to be involved. It's a hassle. His words stunned me. And I realized something. His hiding his father's condition and not wanting to live with him, it was all for this reason. That realization made me furious. I found myself unintentionally raising my voice. I will take care of your mother. Don't you interfere. So, I began caring for my mother-in-law. But at over 50, caregiving was tough for me. The fatigue accumulated more than I expected. I thought about quitting my 5-day-a-week part-time job. But I was working at my mother-in-law's company. Reporting back to her about the company felt like part of my caregiving duties. So, I continued to juggle work and caregiving. However, my efforts ended abruptly. A few months into my mother-in-law's care, she passed away. I threw myself into work as if to distract myself from my grief. About half a month later, after coming home from work, I found Sam, who had returned home before me. He approached me and said, "There's something I need to tell you." Sam had a serious look on his face, and suddenly, he blurted out loudly, "I got my mistress pregnant. Let's get a divorce." He was begging me. I could only look down at him, dumbfounded. "So, you really don't want to divorce, Kelly?" "Oh. I was just surprised by the sudden news," I replied, though inside, I couldn't stop smirking. "You're relying on me so much, you don't want to divorce, right? But for the sake of her, for Ada's sake, please let's divorce." Oh, so the mistress is Ada. That thought felt so detached. I realized how little affection I had left for Sam. Still, I responded with a smile. "Okay, here's the divorce paper." "What? Divorce paper?" Sam was shocked as I handed him the papers, still smiling. Did he really think I was oblivious to his affair? If so, he's terribly mistaken. I was just biding my time, collecting evidence. A wife quietly gathers proof left by her husband. But anyway, I'm relieved he confessed to the affair. It's another piece to corner him. Now, I can slowly tighten the noose. I smiled and turned my back on Sam. With Clarice employed and my mother-in-law gone, I had no regrets about leaving Sam. I felt relieved to part ways with him. I went to my room to pack my things. Sam came in, offering me the divorce papers. "You've got nowhere to go, right? If you insist, I can hire you as a housekeeper," he said, grinning. "Stop joking. I'm going to Clara's place, I'll be fine." "Clara's place?" "Yes. She's always said I'm welcome to stay." I had told Clarice long ago about considering divorce. That's why, when she got a job, she was the first to tell me that. If you divorce, come straight to my place. Let's live together. She even joked about renting a spacious condo. But now, it's become reality. I murmured, leaving the house. Heading straight to Clara's place. It was just a 10-minute taxi ride away. Of course, Clarice was not surprised and welcomed me warmly. And so, my married life came to an end. The next time I would talk to Sam would probably be about the division of property. That's what I thought. But it was 2 weeks after leaving the house. I came home from work to find a barrage of missed calls on my smartphone. They were all from Sam. Curious, I called him back. Hey! What were you doing? Sam's loud voice boomed as soon as I answered. I instinctively moved the phone away from my ear. Don't start yelling suddenly. You scared me. I had to. You weren't answering my calls. His one-sided claim irritated me. But I asked him to get to the point. So, what do you want? Why didn't you tell me when you signed the divorce papers about the company? What are you talking about? I asked, confused. Then Sam raised his voice even louder. The company matters. You knew I couldn't become the president, didn't you? What? I have no idea about your company's personnel matters. The conversation wasn't making any sense. Then Sam explained more clearly. His story went like this. The whole thing started about half a month ago when my mother-in-law passed away. She had been running a company. It wasn't huge, but it had decent revenue and employees. Obviously, they'd be in trouble without a president. Someone has to be the successor. Sam assumed that, being her son, he would naturally be the successor. So, he quit his consulting job and confidently went to take over her company. However, he was turned away at the door. And the new president had already been appointed. Why didn't you tell me that? Are you serious? Of course. If I'm not taking over the company, then what? He declared pompously. I was utterly flabbergasted. If my mother-in-law had intended her son to take over, she would have involved him in the company beforehand. Without any preparation, claiming to be the successor would only confuse the company. I sighed and said, it's absurd to suddenly make someone who's not even an employee the president, isn't it? But... Sam started to stutter. Seizing the moment, I raised my voice. Absolutely not. Things like that don't happen in real life, only in dramas and movies. Self-destructing even before getting back at me, how foolish can he be? I was astonished when Sam suddenly started to get angry. Shut up. I've quit my job, what am I supposed to do now? That's not my problem. I've spent so much on watches, cars. What am I going to do now? He began to cry. I wanted no part in such a conversation. Are we done? I'm hanging up, I'm busy. Wait. At least lend me some money. No way. I haven't even received any from you. I firmly refused. But Sam persisted. Come on, help me out. I'm really in trouble, think of it as helping me. Why should I? I began to retort, but then remembered something my mother-in-law had told me. Those were the words my mother-in-law said to me just before she passed away. She told me to tell Sam. By the way, your mother told me to say something to you if you ever made trouble. What's that? She said, if Sam gives you any trouble, look behind the TV. I didn't understand what it meant. But as soon as I said it, Sam's tone changed. Found it. Saved my life. Thanks. He abruptly hung up. I had no idea what happened. But my mother-in-law had also said, tell him this to corner him. I guess this is what you wanted, right? I murmured, ending the call. Sometime later, on a Sunday, I received a call from an unknown number. This is White speaking. The caller was a man. Apparently, the man was a lawyer hired by Sam. What can I do for you? There's a matter regarding the divorce. He wanted me to come to Sam's house. Reluctantly, I went, finding an unfamiliar man, a young woman, and Sam waiting. As soon as I sat down, the young woman, clearly Sam's mistress Ada, frowned. The man, introducing himself as Lawyer White, started the discussion. First, about the alimony for the divorce. The lawyer efficiently proceeded with the matter. And the alimony was settled at $60,000. Given the evidence of infidelity you have brought, Kelly, this seems fair. But Sam, looking dissatisfied, and Ada, puffing her cheeks, protested. With this much evidence, it would be difficult to contest, the lawyer said, urging Sam to reluctantly sign the documents. I sighed in relief, thinking it was over. But then the lawyer brought out another set of papers. Next, regarding the inheritance. Oh, then I'll leave. I stood up. But it quickly stopped. Please wait. This concerns you as well. Me? I was taken aback. Normally, a wife cannot inherit a legacy. Unless she has adopted a child, but a wife who is only married, like me, has nothing to do with the inheritance. And Sam and I were divorced. There was not the slightest element of legacy involved. Naturally, Sam seemed to think so too. He raised his voice at the lawyer's words. Kelly has nothing to do with this. She's just an ex-wife. Right. A discarded wife doesn't get any inheritance, Ada says teasingly. I was infuriated. Not discarded, I just generously gave him to you. What? The atmosphere became tense as Sam looked on, bewildered. The lawyer, maintaining his composure, proceeded to clarify the situation. Please calm down, both of you. Let me explain properly. The lawyer began by outlining the inheritance from my mother-in-law, which included a house, land, and cash. The only legal heir appeared to be Sam. This was within my expectations. So, I get everything? Yes, but there's also a negative inheritance. Negative inheritance? What's that? The lawyer placed a piece of paper in front of Sam. It's a promissory note. Your mother had borrowed money from a relative. What? I didn't know anything about that. I smirked internally. Because I knew about it. My mother-in-law had borrowed a substantial amount from a relative to start her company, and about half of it was still unpaid. Essentially, inheriting the estate meant inheriting this debt. I don't want such an inheritance. But you can't renounce it. Why not? You've already used some of the inheritance, haven't you? The lawyer pointed out, making Sam go pale. Ada looked confused beside him. My investigation revealed that you've withdrawn from the account. No, that's different. You had the access, right? No excuses. Sam collapsed in despair. That's it. My mother-in-law's words were about where she hid the pin. Sam had accessed her bank account using that information. She had cleverly saddled Sam with her debt. Kelly, were you and my mother conspiring? Was that phrase a trap to ensnare me? No. I didn't know what was going on either. Anyway, it's your fault for using the money. Sam grimaced in frustration, staring at me bitterly. There's also a matter concerning you, Kelly. There's an insurance payout due to you. Insurance money? Yes. You're the beneficiary. It's your mother-in-law's insurance, the lawyer said with a smile. Sam immediately became enraged. What? That's my mother's insurance money. It should be mine. It's part of the inheritance. No, insurance money is separate from the inheritance, the lawyer stated firmly. Later, I learned that this kind of situation is quite common. Normally, daughters-in-law don't inherit. So to bypass this, mothers-in-law can set them as beneficiaries of insurance policies. This way, they can pass on money in the form of insurance payouts. What? I don't get a penny, and she does? That's right. Give it to us. Sam and Ada began to make a fuss. After you suggested putting your own mother in a facility, now you complain? You're getting what you deserve. But that's... Consider it a punishment for abandoning her. Pay off the debt properly, I declared. Sam was left speechless. In the end, burdened with the negative inheritance, he faced the challenge of repaying the debt. Although there was property and land, the financial struggle was inevitable. Especially since he quit his job thinking he'd become the president of the company. With the inheritance issue resolved and our divorce finalized, things seemed settled. Whether I would receive the alimony was another matter, but at least there was closure. I'll visit the grave with Clarice soon. Wait for us, I murmured as I left Sam's house. Inside, I could hear Sam and Ayat arguing. What are we going to do about the baby coming? There's nothing I can do. I shouldn't have signed the marriage registration. I hurried home, pretending not to hear their quarrel. A week later. While at work, I had an odd premonition. Maybe my mother-in-law is trying to tell me something. Her image flashed in my mind. I couldn't focus until lunchtime. What's going on today? I wondered, casually checking my phone. Just then, it rang. From an unknown number. Here we go again, I thought, answering. Hello? Is this Kelly? Yes. Who is this? Thank you for your time the other day. This is Smith, the real estate agent. I'm calling about a contract. The man named Smith started talking about something incomprehensible. I was completely lost in the conversation. I listened in bewilderment until Smith asked me. You are Kelly, Sam's wife, correct? No, Sam and I are divorced. But just recently, there was a contract for an apartment rental. His story didn't make sense to me. So I asked him to start from the beginning. Smith's story was this. A few days ago, Sam visited the real estate agency. He was with a woman claiming to be me, Kelly. They signed a contract to rent an apartment in my name. However, rental agreements require a screening process, which takes a few days. I wanted to inform you about the screening results, but what's going on exactly? I wanted to ask about it. It became clear to me. Struggling with debt repayment, Sam probably couldn't afford his current home anymore. So they would have been evicted from the house they have been living in. If so, Sam and Ada would have nowhere to go. They can't even go back to their parents' house because they think they got rid of it to pay off their debts. Sam wouldn't have easily moved in with Ada's family due to his pride. So, they attempted to rent a new apartment under my name. How could they think this would work? I wondered, questioning even Sam's former employment as a consultant. Regardless, I had to let them face the consequences of their actions. I informed Smith with a sigh. The documents submitted are likely forged, as I haven't written any such thing. What? That's a crime! Forgery of private documents, perhaps? I mused, and the call suddenly ended. Immediately after, Sam called me, furious. You messed up everything. What am I supposed to do now? It's not my problem. It's illegal to lend your name like that. You're the one at fault. Shut up. We have nowhere to live and no money. We're in real trouble. That's your own doing. I thought and said coldly. Maybe you'll have time to reflect it. What? Forgery of private documents is a crime. You might even be charged with fraud. Just be prepared. Goodbye. I ended the call abruptly, ignoring whatever he was about to say. Later, the lawyer White informed me that Sam had been arrested. Indeed, Sam was arrested for attempting to rent an apartment with forged documents. And it turned out that Ada was the one impersonating me. They were both apprehended, which, in a twisted way, showed how close they were. If you intend to defend them, please let us know. I had no such intention and chose to ignore his suggestion. So I chose to ignore his suggestion. Considering it was an attempted crime, they might get a suspended sentence or even have the charges dropped. However, this should be a good opportunity for them to reflect on their actions. I want them to reflect well. With both of them out and still burdened with debt, when I'll receive my alimony remains uncertain. All I can do is wait. After hearing about Sam's arrest, I went with Clarice to visit my mother-in-law's grave. It wasn't exactly to report to her, but I wanted to find some closure. In contrast to my feelings, Clarice had her own news to share. I got proposed by my boyfriend, so I'll bring him next time. She quietly told her grandmother, thinking I hadn't heard. But I did. I hope she report back to me soon. Just thinking about it, I can't stop getting excited now.